There's a specific kind of silence that lives inside people who never ask for help. It's not the silence of peace or contentment. It's the silence of a question swallowed before it could reach your lips. The silence of reaching for your phone, typing out a message, and then deleting it. The silence of carrying something so heavy your knees shake, but your face stays perfectly calm. You have learned to do things alone. Not because you want to, necessarily, but because somewhere along the way, asking became harder than suffering. And now, when someone offers help, you smile and say, "I'm fine," so automatically that even you believe it. But here's the thing about people who never ask for help: they're not actually fine. They're just incredibly skilled at appearing that way. Psychologically, this runs deeper than stubbornness or pride. It's rooted in something more fragile, the memory of vulnerability that was met with absence. Maybe you asked once and nobody came. Maybe you asked and someone made you feel small for needing them. Maybe you watched the people around you struggle and learned that self-reliance was the only currency that mattered. So you stopped asking. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, like learning to hold your breath underwater until it becomes second nature. The brain adapts to protect you. When emotional needs go unmet repeatedly, neural pathways begin to rewire themselves. Psychologists call this learned independence, but that phrase makes it sound like growth when sometimes it's just scar tissue. You didn't choose to become self-sufficient. You were taught that needing others was a risk you couldn't afford. And here's where it gets complicated: that self-reliance that once protected you starts to imprison you. Because the same walls you built to keep disappointment out also keep connection at bay. You become so good at managing alone that even when safe people appear, people who genuinely want to help, you can't bring yourself to let them in. The instinct to decline is faster than the desire to accept. Think about the last time someone asked, "Do you need anything?" Your mouth said, "No," before your mind could even consider the question honestly. That's not strength, that's automation. Your nervous system defaulting to survival mode because vulnerability once meant danger. And the tragic part? Most people will never know you're struggling because you perfected the art of looking unbothered. There's a loneliness that comes with this that's hard to describe. It's not the loneliness of being physically alone, it's the loneliness of being surrounded by people who would help if you asked, but you can't ask. It's standing in a crowded room feeling like you're behind soundproof glass. Everyone's moving, talking, existing, and you're right there with them, but somehow fundamentally separate. Because when you never ask for help, you start to believe you don't deserve it. It's subtle, the way this belief forms. You watch other people lean on each other in something and you think, "That's for them, not for me." You see interdependence as a luxury reserved for people whose needs were met consistently in childhood. For people who learned that the world would catch them if they fell. But you learn to catch yourself mid-air and call it resilience. Psychologically, this pattern often traces back to something called insecure attachment. Maybe your caregivers were inconsistent, loving one moment, distant the next. So you learned that people are unreliable, that your safest bet was always yourself. Or maybe you grew up in an environment where everyone was drowning, and you became the life raft. The one who held it together while everyone else fell apart. Everyone assumes you're okay because you're always the one fixing things. They stop checking on you because you never seem to need it. And over time, you internalize that assumption. You start to believe that your role in relationships is to give, not to receive. That your value is measured by how little you require. So you keep going. You fix your own problems, mend your own wounds, carry your own weight plus everyone else's. And people admire you for it. They call you strong, independent, capable. They have no idea that behind that composure is someone who's terrified that if they ever showed weakness, they'd be abandoned. Because that's the core fear underneath people who never ask for help, the fear that their need will push people away. It's not that you don't want connection. You crave it desperately. But connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires evidence that it's safe. And if your history hasn't provided that evidence, your body won't allow it. Your nervous system will keep you locked in self-protection mode, even when it hurts more than asking ever would. There's also something cultural about this that we don't talk about enough. We live in a society that glorifies independence. Self-made is the highest compliment. Needing others is framed as weakness, dependency, burden. We're taught to apologize for taking up space, for requiring time, for being anything other than completely self-sufficient. And people who never ask for help have internalized this message perfectly. They're the ones who say, "sorry," when they're in pain. Who minimize their struggles with phrases like, "it's not that bad," or "other people have it worse." Who genuinely believe that their problems are too small, too complicated, or too embarrassing to share. They've convinced themselves that their threshold for managing alone should be infinite, and asking for help would mean admitting failure. But here's the truth. Humans are not designed to function in isolation. Neurologically, we're wired for co-regulation. Our nervous systems literally calm down in the presence of safe others. When you refuse help, you're not just denying yourself support, you're denying yourself a fundamental biological need. Your body needs to know it's not alone in this, even if your mind has decided it's safer that way. And yet, the pattern continues. You wake up tired, go to bed exhausted, and somewhere in between you handle everything yourself. Your friends don't know you're struggling because you never tell them. Your family doesn't know you need support because you've spent years convincing them you don't. You've become so good at this performance that even you forget it's not real. Until something breaks. Because that's what happens eventually. The load becomes too heavy. The facade cracks. And in that moment, when you finally do need help so desperately you can't hide it anymore, asking feels almost impossible. Because now it's not just about the current crisis, it's about admitting you've been struggling all along. It's about revealing that the version of you everyone knows is only half the story. That's the paradox people who never ask for help live with. They need it most when they're least able to ask for it. The weight accumulates slowly, invisibly, until one day you realize you've been drowning for months and nobody noticed because you were still smiling. And part of you is angry about that, even though you know it's not their fault. How could they know? You never said anything. There's also a deep shame that often accompanies this realization. Shame that you've let it get this bad. Shame that you need help at all. Shame that you're not as strong as everyone thinks you are.
And that shame keeps you quiet even longer, because admitting you need help now means admitting you've been lying, to yourself, to everyone, about being okay. But here's what shame doesn't want you to know: needing help is not proof of weakness. It's proof of being human. Every single person who has ever existed has needed support at some point. The difference is that some people were taught it was okay to need, and others were taught that need is something to hide. You're not broken for struggling. You're just carrying a wound that taught you to carry everything else too. Because when you look closely at people who never ask for help, you almost always find a child who asked once and the world said no. Maybe not explicitly, maybe nobody said, "You're on your own," but absence speaks louder than words. When you reach out and nobody reaches back, you learn. The child inside you made a vow: never again. Never be that exposed. Never give anyone the power to ignore your need. So you became the one who helps. The one who shows up. The one who fixes, listens, supports, and never, ever asks for the same in return. And people love you for it. They rely on you, but they don't see the cost. They don't see that every time you say, "I'm fine," you're swallowing a plea for someone to look closer. To see through the mask. To notice that you're not okay and care enough to insist on being there anyway. That's the secret wish of people who never ask for help. They want someone to ask them first. They want someone to notice. To say, "I know you said you're fine, but I don't believe you. Let me help." Because if someone offers without you having to ask, it means they see you. Really see you. Not the capable, independent version you present, but the human underneath who's been holding everything together with sheer willpower. But here's the painful truth: most people won't know to offer. Not because they don't care, but because you've trained them so well. You've convinced everyone, including yourself, that you don't need anything. And now you're trapped in a cycle where the people who could help don't know to, and you can't bring yourself to tell them. So the isolation deepens, even in the middle of relationships. This is where the psychology gets truly interesting. Because the inability to ask for help isn't just about trust or fear, it's about identity. When you've spent years defining yourself as the strong one, the capable one, the one who doesn't need, asking for help feels like erasing who you are. It feels like losing the only value you've been able to claim. If you're not the one holding it together, who are you? That's the existential crisis at the heart of this pattern. You've built an entire sense of self around not needing. And dismantling that means facing the terrifying possibility that you might be lovable even when you're not useful. That people might care about you even when you're falling apart. That vulnerability won't destroy you, it might actually save you. But believing that requires a kind of courage that feels impossible when you've spent a lifetime proving the opposite. It requires reaching out with no guarantee anyone will catch you. It requires saying, "I need help," and sitting with the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. Will they show up? Will they minimize it? Will they use it against you later? These are the questions that keep people silent. And yet, somewhere deep down, beneath all the fear and self-reliance and practiced independence, there's still a part of you that hopes. That scans the room for someone safe. That waits for the moment when asking might feel possible. That part doesn't want to be this alone. It never did. It's just been waiting for proof that reaching out won't end in the same old disappointment. So if you're someone who never asks for help, let me tell you something you probably haven't heard in a while: it's okay to need.
It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to admit that you're tired of being the strong one. Because strength isn't about never falling, it's about knowing you don't have to fall alone. Real resilience isn't independence, it's having the courage to be interdependent, to let people in, to trust that your need won't destroy the love people have for you. And if you can't bring yourself to ask yet, that's okay too. Healing doesn't happen on command. But maybe start with this: stop apologizing for existing. Stop minimizing your pain. Stop telling yourself that what you're going through isn't worthy of support. Start noticing the moments when you instinctively say, "I'm fine," and ask yourself if that's actually true. Start recognizing that the ache in your chest when someone offers help is grief for all the times you needed someone and handled it alone instead. Because the thing about never asking for help is that eventually, you forget how. The muscle atrophies. The words feel foreign. But like anything else, it can be rebuilt. One small, terrifying step at a time. Maybe you start by saying, "Actually, I'm not okay," when someone asks. Maybe you let someone buy you coffee when you're having a hard day. Maybe you send that text you've been deleting for weeks. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be honest. And here's what might happen. Someone might show up. Someone might say, "Thank you for trusting me with this." Someone might prove that your fear of rejection was bigger than the actual risk. Or maybe it won't go perfectly. Maybe the first person you reach out to won't understand. But that doesn't mean you stop. Because you deserve to be held when you're breaking. You deserve to share the weight. You deserve to discover that your worth isn't tied to how much you can endure alone. There's a version of your life where you don't have to carry everything by yourself. Where asking for help feels natural instead of terrifying. Where vulnerability deepens your relationships instead of threatening them. That version exists. But it requires you to believe something radical. That you are worthy of support simply because you exist. Not because you've earned it. Not because you've proven yourself. Just because you're human, and humans need each other. So maybe today, or tomorrow, or whenever you're ready, you take one small step toward that version. You let someone see you struggling. You admit you don't have it all figured out. You say the words, "I need help," and let them hang in the air, vulnerable and true. It won't be easy. Your body will fight you. Your mind will tell you to retreat. But on the other side of that discomfort is something you've been searching for your entire life, the feeling of not being alone. And that's worth the risk. That's worth the fear. That's worth unlearning everything that taught you to suffer in silence. Because the truth is, you've been strong enough for long enough. You've proven you can survive alone. Now it's time to learn what it feels like to be held. To be seen. To be human with other humans who care. The people who love you want to help. They're just waiting for you to let them. And when you finally do, you might discover that asking for help isn't the end of your strength, it's the beginning of your freedom. If this resonated with you, take a moment and leave a comment below. You don't have to share your story, just let me know you were here. Sometimes knowing you're not alone in this is the first step. And if you found value in this, consider subscribing. There's more where this came from. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.